Hey everyone, my name is Sophie from Sophisticated Organization. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Today we're gonna be tackling our craft closet. So it's a little cabinet that I have in this Ikea unit in the basement here that I haven't really organized or set up since we moved in. And it's an empty space, and I think it's gonna be perfect for crafts, at least for now. Once we have our baby and he gets a little bit older and maybe we have a second child and we get more arts and crafts supplies, I'm sure this will change, but I just want to organize the things that I have. I'm buying no extra products for this project, so just using what I have and doing some good old-fashioned organizing. So if you're excited, let's get started. I'm getting everything pulled out of the cabinet, but I did have to grab a stool to get those last few things that were nice and high up there pulled out. And once I got that, I had everything arranged on the floor and was gonna go through category by category on the floor, sort through things, and then figure out how I want to arrange it into this cabinet. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not gonna use any new products or anything for this project. I'm just going to use organizers that I already have. And I do have a little stash of organizers, I have to admit, in our IKEA unit right behind me that I haven't found a place for in the house yet. So I have a few different things to choose from, not a ton. And some of these items are actually in organizers already, like the paints that I'm going through. So I didn't really need to go out and buy new stuff. So when I was younger, like high school age, and looking at colleges and figuring out what I wanted to do with my life, I wanted to be an elementary art school teacher. That was the first thing I thought I wanted to do with my life. Then I started looking at art therapy as something I was maybe interested in majoring in college. When I was touring schools, I was looking at art programs. I did AP art when I was in high school. So this was my paint collection from high school and has all of my acrylic paints and some of my drawing materials as well. And while I loved painting and loved doing it both in school with my classes and also at home, I was really big into ceramics. So when you take AP art, you get to pick which discipline you want to focus on. So I actually focused on ceramics, but I did take advanced painting and things like that as well. So I had my own stash of paint so I could work on my projects both in school and at home. And I needed to go through these paints because I have not been painting the way that I used to. I still kind of did when I was in college, but since graduating college, I really have not done any painting projects or art projects like that. So these paints have sat here for a while, and I wanted to open up each and every paint and make sure that they are still functioning and the paint in there is still moist. And you'll see I definitely found some that were completely dried up. They were mostly ones that were near empties. That's probably why it dried up, but other ones were closer to being near full and were still bad. So I was able to get rid of a few, which was really nice. And with all of the paints emptied out of there, I could clean out the bottom of this box, which really needed to be cleaned if you can see how dirty my paper towel is. Now this is my little sketch box that I used when I would draw, and it is full of graphite and charcoal, and I decided that it probably wasn't worth trying to completely wipe it down because it's covered, again, in charcoal and stuff, and you can't really clean it. So I'm going to leave that as is and then go through the accessories that are also in the paint box, so mostly paint brushes, but also a couple of little things to put paints into or little dishes for water. If you don't rinse your brushes properly, they will stiffen up and dry that way. So I wanted to feel all the bristle tips and make sure they were still soft and malleable and everything like that and weren't destroyed and having bristles spraying out to the sides. And actually all of the brushes looked like they were in pretty good shape. So I didn't toss any of those, but doing a little bit of rearranging was nice and good to check in on items that you haven't gone through in a long time. paints are done, so I moved that to the side and then grabbed this little scrapbooking box that I was storing all of my Cricut Joy supplies in. I'm going to keep my Cricut Joy supplies down here in the craft cabinet, and then I have my larger Cricut Explorer Air upstairs. That's what I use to make the labels that I sell on my sophisticated shop and use to make the labels for my house for the most part. And the Joy I use for more crafting. So that's why it kind of makes sense to me, and I don't need both machines out at all times. So having the larger machine out on my desk makes sense, and then this smaller one in the craft cabinet. And there are a bunch of accessories and supplies that I have with the Cricut Joy that are more crafty, like things to make greeting cards, lots more colors and iron-on things and markers and items like that. So I wanted to lay out all my vinyls and figure out exactly what I have and how I wanted to organize them into the cabinet here. These are all of my markers for the Cricut Joy. I dumped them into a photo organizer, and then some of the extra tools that I had and black pens I stuck into a small jar. This is actually a mason jar, but I wanted to differentiate those from the other markers. I don't wanna waste my time, so baby we should start living now. I'm using this old file box. It's one of the things I have in my supply of organizers that I'm just not using in the house right now. So I put all of the Cricut vinyl into this file organizer, and even though it's meant for files, it works just great for this purpose. So never be afraid to think out of the box and use something for a purpose that it's not necessarily meant for. I wanted to see if some of the other mats and supplies that I had could fit into this box, and tried it and decided it wasn't quite a fit, so I wasn't going to force it. And these I probably needed a different solution for. So all of my Cricut supplies moving into another pile, and I just found a bunch of paint pens. So like I did with the paints, I am going to go through each and every one of these paint pens and make sure they're still working. I just grabbed a piece of scrap paper and started by drawing on it and testing each one by one, and again was going to put them into a little dish as opposed to the Ziploc and some in packaging and having them just kind of all over the place. I like having them all in one spot, and with the way I'm thinking about organizing this closet, I think I kind of want to make it look nice and look fun when you open it and look inviting, easy to grab what you want, so hopefully this helps. The next grouping of things I have is some handwriting books. So I really wanted to figure out how to get into lettering and handwriting. And at some point, my parents bought me some of these books and paper and pens that go along with the process, as well as tracing paper so I could practice with the books. And I've been so bad about it. I really was into it for a while. I'm almost thinking maybe I want to grab one of these books and bring it upstairs, so when I'm on the phone or kind of just doing something mundane, I can sit there and practice. I do still want to keep the majority of it down here with all the crafts, but maybe having one book and one pen upstairs just to kind of doodle and practice would be a good way to get myself back into it, because I was actually getting, I think, kind of decent at it, but when you don't practice, But now that I haven't practiced in so long, I almost feel like I've completely forgotten everything I learned and all of the little tips and tricks that the books were teaching me. Because again, it's been a while, like the paints and the paint pens and everything. I'm going through each of these markers and making sure they all still work, which I think all of these did end up working, which is great because some of these markers are more expensive and it would be a shame if any of them dried up, but I just wanted to make sure just in case. At this point, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, not knowing what other items I had left and what categories I had left. Starting with the paint and the Cricut supplies and my paint pens and lettering felt like really distinct categories to me. And some of the stuff left over on the floor was starting to become more miscellaneous. So I took a break and put away the items that I had already organized, and that actually really helped me to figure out spatially how much room I have and what things are going to look like, and just get some of the stuff off of the floor that I had already taken care of so I could focus on the other miscellaneous items that were still on the ground.
I'll give you my heart, you can crush it, moving on. I'll be on my way if you want it. I surrender to you. Yes, I am waving the white flag. I surrender to you.
As you guys probably know, we have so much space in this house right now, which we are so lucky and blessed to have. So I can just kind of organize things by taking up a lot of space here. You'll see I'm organizing it almost as if it's a bookshelf by putting that fancy bookend in there and leaving lots of space between items. If you are tighter on room in your house or your apartment or condo or wherever you live, you might not be able to organize with so much space. But since we do have the space, I'm really taking advantage of it and almost feel like if this cabinet didn't have a door, I would be proud of the way that it looks. And that's the way I like to organize in general. Like if you were to take off the door to your closet, the door to your kitchen cabinets that are closed, would you be proud to have that door removed? That could be a tough standard, but it is a way I like to think about things.
Can crush it, moving on. I'll be on my way if you want it. I surrender to you. Yes, I am waving the white flag. I surrender to you. Yes, I am waving the white flag. Waving the white flag.
On the bottom here, I'm putting all of the supplies that I use when I make little gifts for my friends. A lot of times I do use the Cricut vinyl to customize cups and mugs and things like that when friends get engaged or any sort of celebration when I want to make a quick gift. I'm filling up the rest with all of the other miscellaneous things like our laminator and some of the other little pom-poms and crafts and things like that. And then you'll see all of the other random organizers that I mentioned we have in the Ikea unit that I'd pulled out that might work on the floor. And oh my gosh, this cabinet I am not proud of to leave open. So stay tuned in the future. We're going to have to organize the rest of this unit after I finish just this one side.
White flag.
I printed a little label for that file organizer for my Cricut supplies, and then the rest of them I'm going to use my super old Brother P-Touch label maker that does not work very well. I really need to get a new one, but I still have leftover tape and I want to use up all the tape that I have with it. You'll see I have to pull the label out as it prints. It's such a pain, but it still does sort of function. I'm usually able to get the labels that I want out of it. So I'm going to make a couple of little simple labels instead of using my Cricut and getting all into that right now. I want to keep it as simple as possible, and sometimes simple is better. And that's really all I need in here.
'Cause it will ricochet, I won't let it bite. I will look at you and tell you that I'm alright, like a ricochet.
while I had the fronts of these labeled, the way that I was going to stack them, they were going to be on their side. So I wanted to be able to see what it was from the side, and a label is only useful if you can actually see it. Of course, I could pull everything out and figure out what it was, but I want to be able to easily grab what I need. So adding an extra label on the side, I think will probably help with that. Thanks for joining me for today's quick craft organization video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, I'd appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And until next time, I will see you guys later.